The President of Malawi, Dr. Lazarus Chakwera, says that parts of his country are still inaccessible following the passage of Tropical Storm Freddy. The President said that his country is looking for assistance with more medicines and helicopters. On Wednesday, he declared the devastation caused by Freddy a national tragedy.
Survivors of flooding and landslides as a result of Tropical Cyclone Freddy in Malawi's Chiradzulu district have taken shelter in places such as local schools where they receive government-donated food aid. Some survivors are psychologically scarred by what they experienced.
It will be hard to go back to that place in peace, because what we heard and saw then will always be in our minds. You feel like you can still hear the people screaming. It is really frightening because we are living under the mountain, and it will always remind us of the water coming from there.
Though the worst of the storm has passed, Malawi's Ministry of Natural Resources and Climate Change says heavy rains are expected to continue in parts of the country, and there are concerns about more flooding in lakeshore areas. More than 400 people have been killed in Malawi, Mozambique and Madagascar after Tropical Cyclone Freddy battered the region twice, once in February and cycling back for a second time over the past weekend. Freddy is among the longest-lasting tropical cyclones ever recorded and one of the deadliest Africa has seen in recent years.
Well, the death toll from the Tropical Cyclone Freddy has passed 300, some saying much more than 400, and it continues to climb that number, with authorities in Mozambique and Malawi taking several days to assess the extent of the loss of life. The storm tore through southern Africa over the weekend for a second time after first making landfall in late February. It's one of the longest-lasting tropical cyclones recorded and one of the deadliest on the continent in recent years. Well, for a little bit more on this, particularly in Malawi, we're now joined by the country's president, His Excellency Dr. Lazarus Chakwera. Mr. President, thank you very much indeed for joining us. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for letting me be part of your program.
First of all, our condolences for the loss of life in your country. I know it's been a difficult time, and today you managed to go out and visit some of the injured in hospital. Take us through that day and how difficult it must have been for you.
It's really been hard. The devastation, the deaths, and even the injured. You talk about trauma, a trauma not just by those who have survived because they have lost everything, they've lost loved ones, and they are destitute. But trauma on the part of caregivers, the doctors that I've met at the hospital. They too need care and counseling. So on one hand, you have physical things you can talk about, but there are these spiritual, psychosocial issues that also need addressing. It is truly a most devastating tropical cyclone that we have ever experienced. Even when I visited sites in some of the districts in the southern part of Malawi, sometimes you just can't believe that this has happened, and yet it has. These climate change type shocks are no joke. It's real.
I know that it's difficult at this time with so many people still missing, but have you been able to get a number in terms of injured and fatalities?
We have over 360 now known deaths, but close to now 300 people still missing. And we still have over 600 that have suffered some form of injury, broken limbs, and so forth, and are having to be treated in our hospitals. Infrastructure destruction is way beyond description. But the people are resilient. I've talked to several different camps. The problem has been that because of roads being destroyed, bridges being washed away. Some of the camps have had no supplies to date, and some of them, even today, was the first time that they received some help. And so that's why we need more help. That's why we're talking about helicopters now that it has cleared some, so visibility is much better.
So what is the main work of government at the moment? Rescue missions and, I suppose, first aid?
Yes, rescue mission, and as well as providing what is needed for those that have already been rescued, so that food and shelter is there. We still need tents because many of them are being housed in schools, and that means schools are not in session. So we need a lot of help with sanitation and water, clean water. We need, like I said, medicines, because in some places we just have too many needing help. And so these are some of the things, the basics: water, food, as well as medication and shelter. These blankets, for example, mats, so people can sleep on something that's dry. We are looking at all this. Now, government has already released some money to make sure that the basics are provided, which are being distributed, despite the fact that in some places accessibility has been a challenge. And now I think in the next day or two, it's no longer going to be the case.
All right. Do you have enough boots on the ground? Because we're getting reports that some people have become quite frustrated. They feel like they're being neglected and are busy rescuing and searching for bodies by themselves.
Yes, and that's true. And that's the point I'm making. Because of bridges being washed away, accessibility in some places has been real difficult. And people are having to do what they can with whatever they have. Right now, we have more help that has been extended, and there will be more searches going on. They are stories of tremendous victories. People that have gone out, even after those searching for others, they themselves were in trouble, needing to be rescued, and others have volunteered and they have gone in and helped them, even snatching them away from raging waves as they held on to some tree or something. So despite the fact that some people feel neglected, which is okay, there are people on the ground doing their best, just like the doctors I met, going out of their way to work extra hours and, without even having anybody to say thank you. So I'm really grateful for everyone that's doing their best. What I have called this is Operation Tigwirane Manja, which means, being interpreted, Operation Let Us Hold Hands Together and make sure that we minister to everyone, make sure that everyone contributes to everyone's success.
I know that you visited Queen Elizabeth Hospital, and we saw some of the images there and the injuries there. You mentioned the difficulty that the staff is probably working under, given the numbers. What are they asking from you in terms of help, the health practitioners?
Oh, they're looking for more medicines. They're looking for amenities. They're looking for power so that they have electricity, they have water, they have all of the things they need to help them minister to the people. These are basics. And so that's what we are trying to do. And all the power that was down has now been restored. And so we are looking for better services. But like I said, talking to the doctors, they themselves said they've been so traumatized, they also need help.
Are you getting assistance from international aid organizations?
Yes, we are. In fact, just this evening, I was talking to the nation, acknowledging what international community is doing. The U.S. government, the British government, UN agencies of all kinds, the Red Cross, the World Vision, and local organizations in the country, humanitarian agencies that are helping a lot. And then we have our Zambian brothers and sisters giving us lots of help in terms of medicines as well as maize. Tanzania is coming in with helicopters. I was just before, 2 minutes ago, before coming on this program, speaking with President Yusti, and he's going to give me jet fuel so that those bringing helicopters can have the fuel to be able to take help to different camps. So I'm getting, help from neighbors as well as far fetched friends, shall I say.
All right. I mean, I want to carry on with this health thing because your first thing is rescue, then it's first aid and
Yes.
Convalescence. But I'm sure also that there's concern about things like waterborne diseases. I know that Malawi had a cholera issue even before the storm arrived.
Yes, in fact, while we're meeting all of these things, we have told ourselves not to forget the existing problems. And part of the Cyclone Ana and Gombe last year's aftermath was the fact that water levels had risen so much that in communities where you have boreholes, that didn't work so much because everything got contaminated. And so we are fighting that, and we do not want to have this problem prolonged. The numbers have gone down some, but again, with this tragedy now, we fear that there may be more waterborne diseases. That's why even in the camps, we want to be extremely careful so people are treated in a way that this problem should not be exacerbated.
I know that there's a period of national mourning in the country. Give us a sense of how the country is feeling. In the area of the devastation, we obviously understand because there's been so much loss that they've witnessed. What about the rest of the country that are hearing the news and watching the images on television?
Yes, but this is a nation in mourning. And yet, the resilience of the people gives one hope. They're not giving in to fatalism. They want to say, we will also rise from this. And I can see from the partnership that is being, exemplified from across the country, knowing that this is a national tragedy, despite the fact that the concentration has been in 13 districts in the southern part of Malawi. Everyone knows this is a Malawian problem. It's a national disaster, and we are together in mourning. We are together encouraging one another. We are together finding solutions, and people are coming out with help, big and or small, and yet the spirit is one of resilience. The spirit is one that says we shall overcome.
I'm just wondering, perhaps it's too soon to talk about lessons, but this isn't the first time, albeit this is unprecedented, that your country's had severe weather issues. I just wonder if enough preparation was there for these kinds of weather events was in place.
Yes and no. Yes, because we have had several of these type of things in the past. The early warning systems worked okay. In fact, everyone got surprised because they never thought that we would have some of the biggest casualties in Blantyre City, the usual place where all the waters converge is the lower Shire. And we have the fewest number of deaths there. What has happened is mudslides and flash floods that buried people in whole communities and villages. And that has been the biggest problem. In Mulanje, southeastern part of the country, where we border with Mozambique, just before Miranje in Mozambique, at the border there, because of waters coming from Mulanje Mountain and huge amounts of water, they just washed everything away and broke so many bridges and cut so much of the roads, including the road that connects us with Mozambique in that part. And so it's been bad. It's been bad. Nobody ever expected this. Now, climate change shocks, sometimes you feel like you prepare for them, and yet when they happen, and not on this scale, it's been building, you could say, building up, because the intensity has become so much, and the frequency has become so much. And a country that is just trying to get up from Cyclone Idai, and then boom, we have other issues, we have other crises, and then Cyclone Ana and Gombe last year, within 10 months, we have 3 cyclones. And so you could talk about lessons, and which lessons we are trying to also learn from in terms of how we build and how people get settled and how we, provide for necessities to people. And yet, climate change shocks are real. And this is a fact that we are having to face and to prepare for, even for the future, so that resilience is built within the system, even as we reconstruct and rebuild.
What's your call then to the international community? We'll split this into actual assistance first, and then I'll ask you again, but the second part will be regarding climate change and the work that needs to be done. But let's start with assistance. What do you urgently need from the international community?
So we urgently need help with regard to, like I said, helicopters, search, and rescue missions. The UK has already sent a team. 7 are here. 20 more will come in 2 days. We're looking for tents, so that we're able to free the classrooms for children to go back to school. We're looking for the basics, medicines, blankets, water systems, and we just want to make sure that everyone is taken care of and none goes hungry. But we will need more help with regard to those that need to go back to their communities, and yet whole villages have their houses wiped out. And so we will need help with the tents that will continue to be used while they rebuild.
All right, and then the second part of the same question refers more to the climate change story. We had a COP in Africa, in Egypt recently, and the continent has been crying out for urgent action. What do you say to the international community that needs to be done so that we avoid storms like Freddy going forward?
Well, we are the receiving end of much of the rage of climate change shocks, like storms like this. We talked about loss and damage funds. We talked about climate adaptation funds. We talked about even mitigation funds. People that have well-developed economies, developed on the back of destruction of natural resources that have caused all of these changes, need to understand, and some of them do, even though they do not come through with what they promise. They understand that when we talk about climate justice, we're not looking for charity. We're looking for them to do what is right, make amends for that which they have destroyed. And so we look forward to even carbon credits that we have been talking about, so that countries like Malawi can develop the resilience, can develop the adaptation ability to, as we go green, make sure that we are supported fully with the new technologies and innovations that will make people still have what they need without having to destroy the environment.
Your Excellency, Mr. President, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed for sharing us with your time with us at this very difficult time. And we wish you and the people of Malawi the best. Thank you so much.
I appreciate you. Thank you most kindly.
Okay, that's the Malawian President, His Excellency Dr. Lazarus Chakwera, speaking to us from Malawi about the devastation that Tropical Storm Freddy has left. He says it's been confirmed over 360 people now have been confirmed dead. But that number could rise and likely will, given the fact that access to so many parts of the country is still very difficult, given bridges and infrastructure has been washed away. A lot of work to be done, a lot of help required.